Hi everyone, my name is Kristen McCracken and I'm here today to talk to you about social media and how you can use social media platforms to promote your own work as a filmmaker. So I'm happy to be here and welcome, and please let me know if you have any questions in the chat window below, and I will try to answer them along the way, or I will answer them as we get to the end of the prepared presentation. First of all, I'm sure that many of you use social media in your everyday life, but you might be a little intimidated by how to use it for your project. And so we want to make sure that you understand that it's not rocket science. A lot of the same principles apply, whether you're doing your own personal social media or you're doing social media for your brand, which is yourself as a filmmaker. So we'll walk through some of the do's and don'ts and best practices on how to use social media today. We'll start with the major platforms with the largest audiences, which are Facebook, YouTube, and then Twitter and Instagram. And then we'll talk about some of the other upstart social media platforms that you might be curious about. But we'll talk about why it's best to focus on the big platforms initially. Building awareness is really the key goal of any marketing plan, and this is really a marketing plan as you set out. These tools are free for the most part, although setting aside a budget for Facebook ads is always a good idea, which we'll talk about as well. But if you play your cards right, you can really expand the audience for your work beyond just your friends and family. And that's the goal of this. So we want to make sure that you know all the tools and have all those tools in your toolkit. So this is a whole new language, as we know, but you are also storytellers. You are filmmakers and you are storytellers, and this is just, we want to give you the tools to be able to tell your story in this new language of social media, which is not so new anymore, but in the scheme of things, it's still fairly new. And it changes every day. I've been working in social media since 2008, which was really when Facebook kind of exploded. And along the way, I've worked with films and filmmakers and film festivals in building audiences around film projects. So the first thing to think about is whether you want to be yourself or your project on social media platforms. And on Facebook, I wholly recommend creating a page for each of your projects over time. You want to view that page as a community. You establish two-way communication between you and your fans. Make sure that you are not just telling them information, but that you're letting them ask questions and talk amongst themselves about the issues involved in your film, or their enthusiasm about your film. If you don't have money for a website, Facebook can be a good alternative. It's free to set up. It's fairly basic, and we'll go through some of the things that you need to do that. Most of you understand there's a cover image, there's a profile picture, and then there's just content that you share each day. You don't need to know web skills, you don't need to know a lot of things, so it can be a substitute for a website. On Twitter, a little different, and I recommend that you become yourself on Twitter and create an identity for yourself and use yourself as a filmmaker as your brand. People on Twitter like to have points of view and opinions, and it's kind of hard to do that when you're hiding behind a title of a film. It doesn't hurt to have a film account, and that's not really a problem, but it does take a lot of time to build up a Twitter audience. Twitter can be considered a full-time job in some ways. So it's, I think, advantageous to create an account for yourself on Twitter and build up an audience over time that you can bring with you to the various projects that you work on over time. You can always change your reflect. You can use your cover art and your profile picture to reflect your latest project. But if you can become, as yourself, part of the larger filmmaking conversation. You want to make sure you follow lots of entities in the filmmaking community, and we'll get a little deeper into that today. But that's my recommendation for Twitter. On YouTube, I would recommend that you create a channel for yourself or your production company if you have such a thing, and let that grow over time as well. YouTube is a terrific resource for discovery. It's a tool for discovery. If you use the right keywords, people will find you on YouTube, and we'll get more into that as well. This is a little bit of an overview, but you can, if you create a YouTube channel for yourself and your work, then you can create playlists that reflect the various projects that you're working on. And now we're going to go into some of the ground rules. Social media is not black and white, and it's not a set language. Like, it's always evolving, and so I want to make sure that that these are just best practices. Some people may have different opinions, but over the past 8 years, these are the kind of basic tenets that I have come to believe in and share with my clients. And I use them every day on social media. So these are my best practices. First, you want to create a voice, and you want to make sure that it reflects it reflects you as a filmmaker, and it also reflects the project that you're talking about. If you're talking about a Facebook page for a film, you want to make sure that you are informative and smart and friendly, and that you're feedback friendly, which means that you're willing to listen to other voices. You don't ever want to be snarky. I'm not sure if you know that word, but it's where you can be kind of sarcastic or mean, and you don't ever want to insult other films or filmmakers. This sounds like it might be an obvious warning, but you'll be surprised. If you make fun of a certain filmmaker, and then later in your career that person might be in a position to help you, you don't want to have anything on social media that will come back to haunt you. So be positive, be friendly, and be smart. When you pick a handle, and we'll talk in a minute about what a handle is as opposed to a hashtag. On Twitter and Instagram, you have the @ symbol with a title, and on Facebook, the handle appears in the URL of the Facebook address. So it will be facebook.com/movie title. Having a movie title without spaces is ideal, having the title of your movie. However, if you have a very common word as your title or phrase as your title, it's okay to add film or movie or doc into the name of the handle. Handles on Twitter have to be fewer than 16 characters, so that's something to think about. But you want to try to pick a brand, pick a title for your film that you're using across all the platforms, so that people will start to recognize it. In the same way that your title needs to be consistent, so does your visual identity. So your key art, the title treatment, the image that you associate with your film, those become your branding. And so you want to make sure that those are consistent, that they're beautiful, that they look professional. These are the things that will represent you across the social media landscape. So you want to make sure that you are using an eye-catching title treatment. Usually your profile picture, the little square that's on the left, I recommend that be the title treatment of your film. The more people see the title, the more it will stick in their head. And a cover photo image should be something that represents your film, that gives people a sense of what your film is about. You want to make sure to stay focused. It can be quite overwhelming to have all these different platforms and things that you want to say. I recommend using an editorial calendar. Which we can talk about, I'll show you an example of later, but I use a Google Doc editorial calendar where I keep track of all the posts that I'm planning to schedule. I keep track of social media logins there. I keep track of keywords, which we'll talk about. I keep track of of all the handles for the people involved in my team across social media. And Google Docs are also a good way to share information across your team. So you can share a Google Doc. You're always looking at the most updated version. You don't have to worry about sending various Excel documents or Word documents around. It's a place to keep track of your key dates that are coming up. So if you have a festival launch, or if you have some due dates and have finishing your edit, all those kinds of things, it's great to have all that in one place. It's not public, it's just for you to track your goals, track your progress. I do keep track when I'm working on a film or working with a film festival. I do monthly or weekly stats where I keep track of how many fans we have on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, on YouTube, how many video views, how many subscribers. It's a really nice, compact way to have everything in one place. As you're making your film, start a folder on your laptop, because you'll want to have lots of assets for social media later on. If you're not already doing social media in the pre-production phase or in the production phase, you want to make sure that you're thinking ahead. So if you start a folder on your computer and have photos that are from the set, from the shoot, candids of your cast and crew. When you have a wrap party, you want to make sure you take a big group shot. These are the things that will tell the story of the making of your film. And that's what a lot of social media is people want to see behind the scenes. They want to know what it's like. They've never made a movie before. So they really want to know what kinds of things go into making a movie. What's the, they imagine it's all kind of glamour and George Clooney, and that's not the way things are. You want to show them what it's like, who the people are, who the cinematographer is, and what that means. What does the cinematographer mean? What is the gaffer? Who is the craft services person? All these things are kind of important. But at the same time, if you're not making a big movie like that, if you're making a smaller film, if you're making a student film, all those people are important, and they make up the story of your film. So you want to make sure that you're documenting along the way, so that when you are ready to tackle social media in earnest, you have things to share. Another thing that I keep on that an assignment that I always give a filmmaker that I'm working with when I first start working with them, is to brainstorm a list of keywords that are associated with your film. Or that are associated with your film or the issues in your film. So if you're making a film, I'm working with a film that's about arcade games. So I ask them to come up with all the different keywords, like arcades, gaming, retro gaming, the names of the actual titles of some of the games that are in the film, the names of places and people that are in the film. These are all the things that are keywords that will help your search engine optimization along the way, whether it's people searching for videos on YouTube, or it's targets for your Facebook ads that you might create. When you're targeting ads on Facebook, which we'll get to, you want to make sure you're attracting the people who are your potential audience. So think about people who would like certain things, and how you would and just you can be totally just no holds barred. Make sure you just write down all these keywords, and eventually you'll find the ones that work best for you. And you will also, those could also be hashtags on Twitter or Instagram, which are important ways of expanding your audience, which we'll discuss. And that way you don't have to, if you have them all in one place in that Google Doc, then you don't have to reinvent the wheel every time, and it's not as intimidating to start a new ad or some such, if that makes sense. Social media is social, and you want to involve your whole village to help get the word out about your project and about you as a filmmaker. So you'll start with your inner circle, which is your cast and your crew and your friends and your family and your colleagues at in film school. You want to make sure that you use all the connections that you have and ask them to help spread the word. If you give them clear instructions, you share graphics that they might want to, they could just copy and paste into their own Twitter account, give them sample text that includes your handle or your hashtag. All of those things will help get the ball rolling and form a center for the work that you're doing. And then eventually you can expand that audience further, and we'll talk about how to do that as well. But to start, use your village. You want to make sure you keep things fresh. Once you set up, one of the dangers of social media is that you'll set up all these platforms, 5, 6, you'll do Pinterest, you'll do Snapchat, you'll do everything. And then it's a lot of work to keep all those things up. So you want to make sure that you keep things fresh, but you don't have, if you tell people that you're on Instagram, you want to make sure that you keep it updated. But you don't have to, that doesn't mean you have to update 8 times a day. It just means that once or twice a week, you're on top of it, you're keeping things updated, you're updating your bio, which we'll talk about. If you only have a certain number of assets, you can use your Google Calendar, your Google document to kind of space out the assets and think about what might make sense this week, what makes sense the next week. And so again, you're telling your story over time using the assets that you have. Like I was just saying, on each platform, there's an about section. Sometimes it's called the about, sometimes it's called the bio or the profile. And that's a place for you to give a short, snappy log line. And that's another really important thing to create for your film. Make sure you have a short one sentence that's provocative, that makes people want to learn more, and that also gives the information that you want to tell people about your movie. And as your film moves through the premiere and distribution process, you want to make sure that all of those profiles and bios are updated with the newest information, the newest and latest information. So if you create a website but you didn't have one before, make sure you add it in. If you are premiering at a particular festival, you want to make sure you let people know that and then when it's, of course, in theaters, you want to make sure you have an opening date and have all those kinds of things in place. When you're talking about yourself, same thing. Just if your profile is about you, like as it would be on Instagram or Twitter, you want to make sure that you tell them which project you're working on and how can they find out more. All of these things keep your audience engaged and make it feel like your pages aren't stale. There's nothing worse than going to a Facebook page and seeing that the last update was 2 years ago, which is a shame. You want to make sure that it seems fresh. As I mentioned before, don't spread yourself too thin. Really pick the kind of basic, like I said, the Facebook, the YouTube, and we'll talk more about why those are important. And then Twitter and Instagram are also things to think about, but there's certain reasons why you might have either of those. So start small and grow. You can always add more platforms, but don't start by creating everything. Create 1 or 2 and start there. Honor your bandwidth. What that means is kind of think about how much time do you have to really dedicate to this? And if you know you don't have a lot of time, figure out if there are people on your team that you can trust to help you. And use your strengths. So if someone's really terrific at Instagram, you know that from their own Instagram feed, ask them if they might help you create an Instagram account for the film or for the production company, or even just help with your own Instagram. And planning ahead can also help. The more you know, the more you can schedule a lot of content on Facebook and Twitter. You can schedule them ahead of time so that you don't have to do it every day. You could do some things on Monday. Spend a couple hours Monday morning and have things that will go out during the week. If you have any questions, as I said, please feel free to write them in the chat as we go. Facebook used to be completely free and everyone loved it, and then they really had to start making some money, which I don't fault them for, but it does makes things a little more challenging on Facebook when you're trying to promote your project. So it is a good idea to think about doing some Facebook ads. And I've tried other ads. I've tried Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. Now their advertising is linked so that you can kill 2 birds with 1 stone in that in that way if you do some Facebook ads, if you link your accounts. But Twitter ads, I haven't had a whole lot of luck with. Other people might feel differently, but I think that those can be tough to really gain some traction on. Same thing with Google ads. They're expensive, but that might be more for big projects than for small ones. But in order to reach people outside your circle, if you have a budget for Facebook advertising, you can use your keywords that you've generated, and you can use geo-targeting by finding people in the right places for your film or your project. And these will help increase your visibility. You may have seen these ads on Facebook, and you may have thought those don't work, but they really, really do, especially if you have the right targets to the right people. If you do have some sort of budget to have someone help you, there are professionals. I'm one of them, but there's a lot of people out there who can help you figure out how to spend that advertising budget and how to get the most for your money. There are two kinds of ads, which we'll get into later on, but there's the ads that build your Facebook audience, build your page likes, but there are also, you've seen a lot of posts that have been boosted. So when you have big announcements, it used to be that if you had 1,000 fans on Facebook and you put a post out, a good healthy percentage of those people would see that post. But now, Facebook kind of wants you to put a little money in and boost that post when you have, especially when you have a big announcement, to make sure that more of your fans will see it. And we'll go a little more into detail there later on. There are lots of things about what you should and shouldn't share, or what can I share that's interesting for people. We'll talk. Let's just go right into that. The first thing is that you want to find relevant links. So depending on what kind of project you're working on, those links might be, if you're working on a documentary that's about a social issue, that's an easy thing. You can find lots of articles that kind of address the questions that you're asking in your film. And those kinds of things are good to share with an audience who's decided they want to fan your page on Facebook or on Twitter. So there are ways I set up when I'm working on a new project. I take that list of keywords and I pick the broadest ones and or the most important ones, the most relevant ones, and I set up Google alerts. So each day I will get an email that tells me gives me a list of articles that have been published in the last 24 hours that talk about that issue, and I'll skim through them and see which ones kind of make sense to share. So you don't want to just be sharing things about your film all the time, although those are good too. So photos can be stills from your project. They can be screen grabs from different videos that you work on. They can be candid photos from the set, as I talked about, or from the editing room, or from all kinds of things, from festivals, from film classes, from screenings that you go to, all kinds of things. And then videos are great to share. You want to think about how much time you have to devote to creating videos. But again, you're a filmmaker, so it's important to show, that might be a medium that you're very comfortable in. You can also share things like later on down the road, like deleted scenes or excerpts from interviews that you do if you're doing a documentary, or clips or interviews with your subjects or your cast or your crew. All those kinds of things are the kinds of things that make people want to learn more. Okay, I'm going to go to my computer and show you something. There's a site called bit.ly.com where if you're sharing a link, you can, excuse me one moment, let me just get to this. So bit.ly.com is a site where you take a link that you want to share with the world. I'm just going to copy this and put it in. And you create a bit link, which is a shortened link that then you can take this link and share it. When you share it on social media, you can keep track here of how many people have liked your link, have clicked the link over time. Sorry, let me just get to this. So, for example, you can see here that sorry, this thing is, let me minimize this. There we go. This is a link that I made. This link is a link that I made yesterday, and it shows me how many people clicked on it. It also shows me where they came from. If they came from Facebook, they all came from Facebook. That's the only place I shared that link. They all came from the United States, which is not surprising since that's where I live. But you can see a lot of information, and you can also try to get a sense from your from how many links there that are shared as to what the as to what kinds of things your audience appreciates. Do they like links about other films? Do they like links about interesting articles or provocative political content? There's a lot of things that you can learn about your audience by keeping track using a bit.ly link. So what you have to do, you have to create an account on bit.ly in order for this to work. So you would create an account, and then you could just keep sharing. I've created so many bit.ly links, and I can see here as I scroll down, some of the things have not had many links, but some things have had, this one had 281 clicks. So when I click on this, it shows me what days they happened, what the referring channels were, where the people were from who clicked on it. There's a lot of information you can gather. So that's just one thing to think about. Another thing you can do on bit.ly is you can make, let me just find one here. You can customize a bit.ly link. So when you create the link, I don't know if this is easy for you to see, but I made it so that the link it wasn't just a random assortment of letters and numbers. It was FNIM, which is the title of my film, and Music Hall, or this is a better one, FNIM NYC. So it's the link to buying tickets in New York City for this particular film. So that way it looks a little neater and nicer when you share it. So that's just something to think about. Let me go back. Hi, yes, I will send, I just got a chat message asking to send the link. Yes, I will send. I hope that the NTube Center can help at the end and share everything to the content. Oh, do I just put the link right in here? Maybe that's the best thing to do. Hold on 1 second. Sorry, hold on 1 minute, please. Yes, here's the link. I did this chat. It's terrific. Okay. So that's something to think about. Moving forward, I think that I'm a little stuck here. Oh, there we go. So there are a lot of do's and don'ts when you're sharing. So you do the ultimate goal on social media is to share things that people will want to then share themselves, or write comments, or like. Those are the kind of the basics. But on Facebook, shares are better than comments, are better than likes. On Twitter, you're looking for retweets and replies and favorites, but retweets are the best. You're looking to make things that will go viral. However, there's no easy formula for how to make something go viral, or else we would all be doing it every day. So some things hit and some things don't, and you just have to keep trying to find the thing that's going to help, that's going to pop in the social media universe. Some things that are great to share are memes, which can be an image from your film with words kind of superimposed on top. It's great to learn Photoshop and have a font that's associated with your project. So that's one thing to think about if you have some good Photoshop skills. And I'll show you some examples of that a little later. Hi, thank you for introducing yourself on the chat, you guys. It's nice to meet you. Other things that you can share, you can introduce your team. You can share short and snappy videos like we talked about. That can be all kinds of things, and we'll get to that, I think, when we get to the YouTube section. We've also talked about this a little bit. Make sure that you give people insider access. So you want to share that behind the progress Share the process along the way, share your progress, show people what it's like to make a movie, and give people a peek behind the curtain. And also another thing that will endear you to your audience and make you seem very authentic, which is the goal, is to be honest about the ups and downs of making a movie. What's hard for you? What were some great successes that you've had? These are things that will make your social media feel like it's you talking. You're giving them a gift of sharing what you're working on and how it's going. Don't be a narcissist. Make sure that you are connecting with your audience. The more you engage your audience, the more they will help share and spread the word about your project for you. If you show and not tell how great your project is, show them why your project is great. Tell them the story of the film that you're making, and show them. Like, that will make them want to follow along. And don't just keep saying, you're going to love this movie. That's not really very helpful to anybody, and they'll get bored by that. When you're if you're working on a documentary, as I said, you share news about your topic and make your page kind of a go-to resource for people who are interested in that topic. For narratives, you can introduce your characters along the way, and you can use quotes from your script or tell the story of your characters. You don't have to give too much away, but it makes people then want to see the project eventually. Do take your time. So in some ways, social media is very fleeting, and you want to make sure that you're in the moment, but take your time, be careful. Don't misspell things, use correct grammar. Your social media reflects your project, so you want to be professional. You want to craft your words, use the right language, use the right tone, and you want to create professional key art. Don't just slap up every picture that comes along. Make sure you're sharing the best photos and images and videos that you have. You want your work to look professional. But the flip side of that is don't overthink. So sometimes people can agonize over every Facebook post or every tweet, and that's missing the point. You want to make sure you're in the moment. You post what you need to post when it's still timely. You want to go with the flow and react and engage in conversation with your fans and with other people in the social media universe. So with other people on Twitter, you want to make sure that you're reacting in the moment. Just remember those rules about tone and not being snarky and not insulting people. Those are important to think of. And look forward. If you have a bad social media day, it all happens. I mean, I've made mistakes on social media, and first of all, you can delete things. Second of all, every day is a new day, so you can look forward and do better tomorrow. So don't overthink it and overanalyze everything. And don't have every person on your team have to weigh in on every post. That will get very old very fast. So you do want to create a hashtag, and I'm going to flip to this next thing. So actually, thought I had something in there. Okay, do create a hashtag. So if you're being yourself on social, there's a film, for example, that I'm working on right now called 5 Nights in Maine, and the handle for the film is @5nightsmovie, because 5 Nights in Maine was kind of just too long and they wanted to indicate that it was a movie. But the hashtag they're using is 5 Nights, just short and sweet. But it also, if you've heard about 5 Nights in Maine, if you've heard about that movie, then 5 Nights will make sense. You want to use your hashtag everywhere on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. They all work now. And I have a slide that talks about the difference between hashtags and handles. So sit tight for that. The more you use it, others will follow your lead. So that's how you get a hashtag out into the world, a hashtag for your project. Once you establish your handles and your hashtags, make sure to put them everywhere. Put them on your call sheets if you're making a film. Put them on the postcards that you hand out about the film. Put them. Make sure that they're in your newsletters if you're sending out to an audience that you've developed. Put them into your email signature so that people will see them. The more they see them, the more they get used to them, the more likely they are to remember them. The word community and social, which is a big part of social media, has a base of the word commune. So it's communicate, community, all these things come from the same root. So you want to make sure that you are being in communication with your fans, that it's not just all about you all the time. You want to make sure that you answer if they have questions or they have comments. Give them a response. Make them feel heard. Say hi. Say thank you for when people compliment or say they're interested in seeing your work. Say thank you. Ask them how they heard about you or your project. That could give you some insight about how to expand your audience even further. Make sure that you have that communication with your fans. Don't and do that daily, if not weekly. Make sure you keep on top of that. As I said before, a website is not always necessary anymore, although it's a terrific asset to have just as a placeholder. So if people are searching on the web and they know the title of your film, they can find it. But it can be really just a shell with basic information and links to your social media or links to your trailer or just your trailer front and center. Those kinds of things, those are good to have, but don't assume people are going to visit your website every day. That's what social media is for pushing out the message or the things that you create for your website or just create for social media. People visit Facebook every day, and we'll get to some of those stats soon. But people visit Facebook every day. They don't go to your website. So use the social media to your advantage and make sure everything is on and easily to find. But use your social to push the content that you're creating out into the world. One thing that is a pet peeve of mine is when people set up automatic cross-posting. So whenever you post something on Facebook, it goes to Twitter, or whenever you do something on Instagram, it goes to Facebook. Those things are can be very annoying because you're not using each platform's strengths. So what that means is Twitter, you can only have 140 characters. So Facebook, you can have a much longer post. So when you post something to Facebook and then it transfers to Twitter, it only posts the first 100 characters or so, and then it links to your Facebook post. People on Twitter never click on things that go to Facebook. That's not what they want to do. They're in Twitter. They want to see everything right there. The same thing with Instagram. When you post an Instagram photo and it automatically goes to Twitter, it shows up on Twitter as a link. And so people have to click it to see the photo. It's much better to do the same post, modify the same post for the different platforms, using each platform's strengths and capacity. The other thing is that handles and hashtags, or handles especially, don't always translate across platforms. So if you're on Instagram and you tag your friend on Instagram and it goes to Twitter, they may have a totally different name on Instagram, on Twitter. And I have 2 different handles because I couldn't get one of them on one, and it's a long story, but when someone tags me, it's not going to work. Same thing with the tags if you're trying to tag someone on Instagram and it goes to Facebook, those won't work either because on Facebook you have to select from a drop-down menu when you tag a person. There's a lot of things going on. So I recommend that extra work really does pay off, and when you're using each platform to their potential, their maximum potential. Do join the conversation. Become a presence on social media. Like and follow your fellow filmmakers, press people, press outlets that you read, places where you read reviews or read film news about film. Follow film festivals if that's something that you're trying to get your film into. And then communicate with people and issues related to your film. So look for people who are talking about the same kinds of things that you are. That's a good way to, if you look at a person who you know is involved in what you want to be involved in, what hashtags are they using? Click those hashtags and see who else is talking about that topic. And then follow them, join the conversation, reply. On Facebook, if you act as your page and like other pages, and I can show you what that looks like, that will help establish a relationship with other organizations as well. And that's the way you grow an authentic following. If people see you talking about the kinds of things they're interested in, they're going to want to follow you. Be creative. You're a filmmaker, try new things, experiment. as I said, you can always do better tomorrow if you are not thrilled with the way you did today. So be creative. So on the various platforms, when you're trying to decide which ones to choose, there are a lot of options, as we said. But my main mantra is to fish where the fish are, which means don't waste a lot of time on platforms where the people where the public isn't there. Be realistic about who your potential audience is and know what those audiences are like. So Facebook has an older audience than Snapchat, obviously. And YouTube has people, YouTube is an audience for people looking for film content, video content. So Facebook and YouTube are the two biggest things, and we'll get to that in a second. They're the two with the biggest audiences and the biggest potential for discovery. Twitter and Instagram, I think, are really good things to do when you are yourself. But Instagram, you need a lot of images. And then there's some wild cards. So there's Tumblr, there's Snapchat, there's Pinterest. I'm sure there are more that maybe are bigger in your part of the world. But they each have their strengths, but you don't want to spread yourself too thin. So my mantra, again, fish where the fish are. Make sure you go where there's the biggest potential audience. Facebook is a no-brainer. That's the biggest. It's the behemoth. It's the one that you should be on. There are 1.13 billion daily active users for last month, or 2 months ago, which is huge audience. People complain about Facebook, at least here in the United States they do. Everyone rolls their eyes about Facebook, but they go to it every day. It's also a place that can really live on in the future as a place, a central place for people to find out information about your film. You can tell them about when it's not. You can 2 years after your film comes out, you can go there and still kind of share anything new. If your film's going to be in a different platform or on a different, available on VOD all of a sudden, or you have a sale on it on your website for $1.99. There's all those kinds of things. Once you build an audience, it's you can have that for a long time. So when you tag a page on Facebook, or when you talk about someone else on Facebook, you want to make sure you tag them so they know that you're talking about it. I'm going to show you. I'm going to go off and show you a few things on Facebook that you can do. I'll just do it at the same time since I have to go off site here. Hold on. So on Facebook, this is one of the pages that I manage, the Hamptons International Film Festival. But there are a few things you can do. So if I wanted to tag NTube Center, I wanted to say, oh, I'm doing a workshop on the NTube Center. So did you see what I did there in order to tag the page? I hit the @ symbol, and then I started typing NTube Center. And at first a list of things comes up, but I decided to choose the one I want to tag. So I tag this and I say NTube Center. And I would put the date, etc. And if I wanted to upload a link, one of those bit.ly links that I was talking about before. So let's say I'm going to, whoops, that's not the right thing. I'm going to copy this link, put the link in. Once I put the link in, I want to, that's not a good one. Let me find a better link here. If I'm sharing this link, again, I would have probably put it into bit.ly and shared a bit.ly link here. But once I put the link in, and when this preview pops up down here, I can delete this link. So then it looks cleaner, so that I don't have to, you don't have to have that messy link. And if it's a bit.ly link, no one will know it's a bit.ly link because you're just, you've gotten rid of the evidence. So then this is your, this is what you're sharing, and it will show an image and it will show the content. This stuff is all editable. So if you say check out IFC films, you can edit that before you post. And you can also put content in here. This is a terrific YouTube channel, just something like that. So this is what would share out instead of the things that came pre-populated. You can also change the image that pops up right here. So if you wanted to take any kind of image, I'm just going to take an image from my desktop. I've decided I'd rather have this image come up in my post. So what you do is it's going to now say that it's going to show these two different images, but I'm going to undo this one. If you click it and if you unclick it or click it, it will make it an image. So now it's just going to use this image instead that I've selected. So these are all options. And then if I don't want to publish it right now, I want to publish this on Thursday, I can click, instead of hitting the publish button, I can hit this drop down menu here, and I can click schedule. And I can say I want to publish this on Friday morning at 9 o'clock. Or Friday morning at 9 o'clock. And then I can say schedule. And I can go back and see all the posts that I have scheduled. So if I just go, sorry, I did that fast. If I go to my homepage, the list of the scheduled, the scheduled posts are right here. So I would click, if I want to see them, then I can go here and I will be able to reschedule, change the time, or edit the post. If you click it, there's different actions you can do. You can say reschedule, cancel, publish now. You can backdate things, but you can also click on this and choose edit, and it will let me edit the text. You can't change the picture, but you can change the text. So this is a way I'm going to delete this now so that it doesn't go out onto my feed. But those are that's one way that I save some time. So Monday morning, I can go in and schedule 4 posts for the week at different times, and they will automatically publish when I want them to. So I don't need to worry about it anymore. It's a really nice option. Try to get back here. Okay. Are there any questions about that? That was a lot of things really fast that hopefully you'll share. You can come back and look at this again and see if that was helpful. So with Facebook, you want to create content that you want to see. If you upload your videos, it's important to put them on YouTube, which we'll talk about in a minute, but it's also a good idea to upload videos directly to Facebook, which will give you more views, and Facebook will give it more attention, I believe. This is an anecdotal thing that I figured out, but if you it's called native content, so if you put video directly into Facebook, they will probably give you more views without paying for them. It's also a good place to have a video section on your Facebook page where people can just watch directly. Like I said, with you don't want to cross-post things all the time. You can always share YouTube links as well, but if you have your own video, your own trailer, your own clips, it's an option to upload directly into Facebook. You want to make sure you promote big events, you share links, you connect with fans, you can add on a Facebook page, you can add, when you're using a business page that you would create, you can add colleagues as administrators so that you can share the load. That same place where I just clicked schedule instead of publish, you can also just click save draft. So it doesn't have any date associated with it, but you could create a few drafts and then show your colleague what you created, and then the two of you together can work. They could see it from their own Facebook page if they're an administrator. Then you can discuss what makes most sense and whether it's a good thing to share. You can edit it, you can then schedule it for the right time. On Facebook, if you're created a page that you're an administrator on, you want to make sure that when you like a post on that page, you're acting either as yourself or as the film. And there's just a little toggle button down at the bottom right of every post, every comment, every post, where you can switch back and forth between yourself, and the page that you're talking about. So make sure that you go in and like your film's post as you, not your film, if that makes sense. How often on Facebook? I mean, you know from watching, you know from the things that you follow yourself that something like Yahoo is going to post 20 times a day. But I think for normal people and for filmmakers, it's a good idea to kind of keep the page updated and fresh, as we talked about, but that can be 2 to 3 times a week, or even once a week during production if you're on the really early end. As you get up to a release and you have a lot of content, you can do once a day. If it's the week of your release, you can do 3 times a day. It's just you don't want to you want to make sure that you're balancing your own time that you have to devote to this, and that you don't overwhelm your fans. And you don't want to post lots of things in a row. You space them out. Use that scheduling tool. So you schedule things on Monday morning for the week, things that you want to talk about throughout the week. You can also leave room to be spontaneous. So you can go in and make a post or share something from someone else during the week. So there's no hard and fast rules here. So there are some really good Facebook examples. I'm running out of time here, but I want you to be able to, I'm going to type these in here that you can check out. Under the Skin is a movie with, oh, sorry, I just did the wrong link. I didn't mean. It's a movie that starred Scarlett Johansson, and they used a lot of really terrific memes they created, those things that I was talking about. They were provocative, beautiful images with text on them, so that's one thing you can check out. And then there's a documentary called, if you're looking for a great documentary to follow, to get inspiration from, Buck was a movie that was about a cowboy, a person who trains people to work with horses, and it's a beautiful movie, but it's also a really, really terrific social media. And the movie came out probably 4 years ago, but they've kept that up and active. So that's those are 2 great examples. Come on. There we go. YouTube has 1 billion plus users. It reaches, this is a fascinating statistic, in the United States, it reaches more 18 to 34 and 18 to 49-year-olds than any cable network, which this might not surprise you, but it's a huge statistic. It's the best place to share videos. People love Vimeo as a filmmaker favorite because it's a beautiful platform, but the public's not there yet. So you want to make sure that your videos are findable on YouTube. That is where the audience is at this point. Vimeo might get there someday, but right now it's not anywhere near the users that YouTube is. To create a YouTube account, you need to have a Gmail account because Google bought YouTube and they're all part of the same company. So it's always a good idea to set up a Gmail account for your film using the film title, so movietitle@gmail.com. Just go ahead and create that now, and then you can always set it up to forward to your regular email. And you can use that as your login for all social media platforms. It's a good way to share logins with colleagues as well, so they're not logging into your own personal Gmail account if that's what you use. So that's just a recommendation. YouTube lets your film live and grow, lets your film career live and grow over time. So you can create playlists for the various films that you have, and within that you could create playlists for deleted scenes, or from interview excerpts, or for various trailers and teasers. You can also create playlists that aggregate videos from others. So if there's other videos that you think are great that you want to call your audience's attention to, you can create a playlist using videos that already exist on YouTube. As I said, you create your channel using a Gmail account. Every time you upload a video, there's a place to enter keywords, and that's how people will discover. So if you making a movie about left-handed Latvians, you want to put in left-handed, left-handers, left-handedness, and you put in Latvia, Latvians, all kinds of, just to make sure that if someone happens to be searching for left-handed Latvians on YouTube, they'll find They'll find your film. So make sure you use those keywords. It's fine to use words like documentary or independent film, but you also want to use things that are very specific, that are about your project or about you and the work that you do. Those are how people are really going to find you. You can share YouTube links across all platforms. You copy and paste. You could create a bit.ly link for your YouTube trailer and call it movie title trailer /bit.ly/movie title trailer. And then just keep track of how many people clicked on it from that. You can see your views on YouTube. And you want people to subscribe to your channel so that they'll come back and see more. If you're someone who uses Gmail like I am, for my personal life, and I use the Chrome browser all the time, so every time if I'm logged into my Gmail and then I try to log into YouTube, it's going to kick out my Gmail if I try to use the other account. So it gets complicated. So I usually I open a different browser. I'll open Firefox to have my YouTube account open for a film, so that if I'm working on it, so it doesn't log out my own email. That's a little insider tip, but I hope that makes sense. But you don't need to keep signing in and out, which can be really annoying. How often? YouTube, there's no rule here. Whenever you have a video to share, it's a good time to put it up. But if you make 4 clips over a weekend, don't release them all at once. Put them out once a week for 4 weeks or something like that. You can upload them all at the same time, but set the ones that you're not ready to release, set them to private, and then go in once every Monday and change it to public, and then you can share it out on your social platforms. So the time commitment is really up to you. How much video can you create? How much time do you have? How important is that to you, to your strategy? And these are some other good examples. These are some nice examples. They're big companies, but they're also, they use the platform very well. They have lots of playlists. They have different trailers. They've put their current projects front and center, but you can still go back and find old projects always. So it's a really nice repository of all of their videos over time, their trailers and their films. So then we're moving on to Twitter. So Twitter has 313 million active monthly users last quarter. So that's a lot of people. Also, 79% of the accounts are outside the US, so that means it's a global audience. 82% of active users are on mobile, which means that you'll want to make sure that you have it on your own screen, your own phone as well, that you're connected to Twitter all the time. Twitter requires a commitment. I talk about how Twitter is like a stream, a river that's going by all the time. And if you come in at one moment, you're sticking your toe in, you're only going to see what's around you at that moment. You're not going to see the water that was already passed an hour ago. So tweets are very fleeting. They don't show up on your feed unless someone retweets them later. So you want to make sure that you're tweeting constantly, posting constantly, checking in constantly. It can be really like a full-time job. So dip your toe in, see how you like it. But that's why it takes a long time to build up a following, because not everyone's on it all the time. That makes sense. But on Twitter, you can connect with people who are in the film community. It's a really nice personal way to connect with industry leaders who do read people who reply to them, and it's a really nice way to get your name out there. As I said, yourself with your handle. You can create a hashtag for your film and be yourself on Twitter, and gaining traction can take time. So this is where I talk about, I should have done this earlier, the difference between a handle and a hashtag. So a handle is a person's account, specific person's account or a company's account or something like that. So when you type at your film or at a person's name, you're always talking about that person or to that person. That person will see it when you tag them. They will get a notification that you've mentioned them. So when you use a handle, you're talking about or to a specific person or entity. When you're using a hashtag is a conversation or a topic. So in the lead up to the Oscars in America, this is a big hashtag topic. If you put Oscars in your tweet, then people a lot of times people click on the Oscars hashtag and they can see everyone who's tweeting about the Oscars at that moment, whether they're following them or not. So it's a way to expand your audience or your horizons, but you can also just join a conversation. And people might see you if you're, these happen. There's going to probably be a big hashtag with Olympics that are happening soon. There's always hashtags around global events or national events. But there's also hashtags around film, around indie film, around festivals, different kinds of things. So it's good to explore hashtags, research them, investigate them, and figure out what makes sense to you. And you don't actually follow a hashtag. You can't click it and say, I always want to follow this hashtag, but you can just keep an eye out for that hashtag. And the more you use a hashtag, the more people will associate you with that topic. On Twitter, for if you're making a documentary, you can find passionate advocates around the topic in your film, and you can connect with other people who are concerned about the same thing you are, and who might be a potential audience for your film. That's how you find people who want to see your film later on. And for a narrative film, you want to check out and see if your cast and your crew have a presence on Twitter. If so, use them. Have them promote your handle and the film's hashtag. If you give them copy and paste tweets, that's what I do a lot of times. I'll just write the tweet that I really want them to put out and send it to them, and they will just copy and paste. It makes it very easy for them to help support the project. And it gets the right message out. You make sure that they use the right handle and the right hashtag, and there's no misspellings, and they have the right dates and all those kind of things. So if you can provide those things for your community, that's really a win-win situation. You can, as I said, you can tweet as much as you like. You can make sure what you say is interesting. You can share links. You can share pictures. You can share all kinds of things. And you can also communicate directly with people. I wouldn't schedule I wouldn't do 10 tweets in a row, but you could do 10 tweets, one every minute. It's really not that big a deal. You can tweet as much as you want. And that's how you build up an audience. And then, as I said, you could schedule foundation tweets. I use an app called TweetDeck. But there are lots of other ones. So TweetDeck is actually an app I have on my computer. I'm on a Mac, so I have this app called TweetDeck. I'll type it in here. It used to be a standalone app, but now it is it's owned by Twitter. It's just the most seamless way to schedule tweets. So you can go in and schedule tweets for the week, and TweetDeck also allows you to have various accounts open. So if you do have your own account, if you have a film's account, if you have a production company's account, you can have them all. You can schedule things on all the different accounts at once. It's a terrific tool. And then, so you can schedule things on Monday morning for 10 tweets for the week, but then you can also install the app on your phone and make it a habit. Check in on Twitter when you're waiting for a doctor's appointment, or when you're waiting, when you're commuting, if you're not driving. Make sure that you just make it a habit to check in on Twitter and see what's going on around you right then. You check for your own mentions and notifications. Twitter will let you know when someone's talked to you or at you or about you, and make sure that you respond. That's the way you build communication. These are the Twitter examples that I pulled up. These are people who use Twitter to talk about their film-related work, but they also are very political people. So they talk about issues that are related, that they believe in. And that's what I said about really establishing a presence and having a personality. And they have lots of followers because people want to check in and hear what they have to say. They are, people who are, Michael Moore is a huge documentary filmmaker in the United States. Ava DuVernay is a narrative filmmaker who is a woman of color in the United States who's really taken on being an advocate for diverse filmmaking in the United States. Those are just two people to check out who I think are doing interesting work. Okay, then Instagram has 500 million users, which is a lot, with 300 million daily active users. Again, it's a global community. 80% of users are outside the United States. Instagram is great, and filmmakers are really starting to stake a claim on Instagram, but you have to figure out if it's the right platform for you. First and foremost, you need a lot of images. A lot. a lot, like maybe 2 to 3 images a day for a while, maybe 10 images a day. I mean, you just need a lot of images in order to really use Instagram to its full potential. Be strategic. What age is your target audience? As you know, Instagram is probably mostly teens and 20s, although older audiences are really picking it up now. It is connected to Facebook now, so there's that nice crossover. That's a natural crossover to find an audience. But you don't start an Instagram for your film. I mean, unless you have a ton of images about the film. But that's why I really believe it's also a good thing to have an Instagram for yourself or for your production company, so that over time, there's some great, lots of production companies in the United States like Fox Searchlight and IFC Films and the Weinstein Company and all kinds. They have terrific, fun Instagrams to follow because they have so many images in their arsenal to use. If you don't have a lot of graphics yet, it's not worth starting one unless you just use it for use your own account. And then also that thing where I talked about creating memes. And if we have time, I'll show you what I mean by that. Creating things that people will want to click to share. Those are the things that, and on Instagram, there's no built-in, there's not a built-in way to, you can't just click one click and say repost. There's a third-party app that you can use, though. I'll show you in just a second. We kind of talked about that already. So there's down here it says to repost you need a third-party app. I use an app called Repost, but there are several other ones, so something to think about if you want to repost things that other people are posting. It's a nice way to communicate and build your audience. But on Instagram, because reposting is so hard and people don't always see your likes, organic discovery comes from using hashtags. So you can hashtag keywords, cast names, locations, genre of film, happiness. There's so many things, emotions, travel. There's lots of things that you can hashtag, and you'll see them. Do your research. Which ones have big audiences that make sense for the audience for your film? And use those hashtags. Even though they look a little, some people don't love the way they look using all those kinds of hashtags. They don't look great, but that's the reality. This is the way that you build an audience on Instagram. So that's my warning or my advice. How often? Again, you can put if you have lots of images or you take pictures out in your daily life, you can post a lot on Instagram. But you want to space them out at least an hour apart. Don't put 5 things up at once. That kind of annoys people. You might know that from using Instagram yourself. Time commitment. Instagram posts cannot be scheduled in Instagram. And you cannot post to Instagram from your computer. You have to do it all on your phone. So what I do is I try to post in the moment. If I'm at an event or at somewhere, I try to post right then. Or if I have a post that I did on Facebook that I want to put on Instagram as well, I will text myself the image and text myself the text that I've already written and copy and paste those into Instagram, so I don't have to sit there and retype everything, because it's a little annoying to have to do that. There's an app called the Later app. If you just look up Later, it used to be called Latergram Me, but it's now called Later. And I'll type that in here. And it's kind of allows you to schedule, so you can work on you can do things on your computer, enter in images and text, and then it will alert you on your phone. You have to install the Later app on your phone, and it will alert you when it's time that you want to post that, and then you can click it. There's some back and forth. It's not super easy, but it is one option to investigate if you decide that Instagram is what you want to use. These are the 2 samples that I have pulled. Reed Morano is a cinematographer, and so because she's a cinematographer, she has beautiful images, and she has built up a real following around just her kind of beauty shots. Some of them are from set, some of them are of her family, some of them are of her everyday life, but they are she's a good one to check out. And then Lena Dunham is someone who's taken her own personal brand and really turned it into, use social media to develop her personal brand. So like her or don't like her, she's a creative force in our culture in terms of being a millennial who really understands the power of social media and how she can use that to advance her brand and her shows and everything else, her books, everything else that she does. So the other options, I mean, I knew that I only had an hour here, and Snapchat is a new thing, and I know that many of you are probably young and students, and you really use Snapchat all the time. It's certainly something to explore. It's where the younger audience is. I haven't quite figured out how to use that for a film, although I would love to hear from you guys if you know people who are films and filmmakers who are really using Snapchat to build a meaningful audience and not just posting pictures of rainbows and unicorns. And I don't mean to be disparaging, because I think that it's a real force that will be harnessed in the next year or two. Instagram also, incidentally, yesterday, I don't know if you've updated your Instagram, but they started having a Snapchat story feature. I mean, a story feature like you have in Snapchat. So it'll be interesting to see how that develops and whether that's an option. Though they're having stories where they would disappear after 24 hours, just like Snapchat has. So that's just happened yesterday. Tumblr is a network of blogs, which can be a good substitution for a web page. If you're someone who's skilled at using Tumblr, that can be an option for a web page if you have the right page design. And then Pinterest it made a big splash a few years ago, but the only people who I know who really use it now, it's a very visual place, but the people that I know who use it are very suburban people who are a lot of women who are looking for recipes or design ideas. I'm not sure it's the best option right now in terms of figuring out where your bandwidth should be focused, if that makes sense. Facebook ads, we talked a bit about this, and this could be a whole workshop in and of itself, but Facebook ads can be a way to drive new likes, expand your circle, target your audience, develop a budget. There's a lot of things that you can do to use Facebook ads to build your audience. I could do a whole other workshop on that, and I can see if I can get NTube to send you a link that I have, which has kind of step-by-step instructions on how you would do this. But as a general rule, there's two ways. There's ones you create an ad to build page likes, and you can set that up for as little as $2 a day, and you have a solid key image, a strong log line that we mentioned, where it's like, the arcade movie. It says a new movie about the greatest arcade in the world. Is it gone forever? ? Just a solid line. It's doing very well. I've doubled the Facebook fans in just a few weeks. I doubled the Facebook fans in 1 week, and then it's still growing. So there's a lot of ways that if you have a good grabby headline, you can get people to like your page. And then you also want to boost key posts. So when you boost a post, you can do it for $5, for $10. You can do it for whatever budget you have, but you can target your fans and their friends. So it will not only target the 1,000 fans you might have, but it'll also target all of their friends. So their friends will see Susie Q likes this page, and then you'll see the ad that's coming up. And you might be curious because Susie Q likes it. You might think, what's that? I'll check it out. So that's a way that you can expand an audience based on the base you already have. And then the month before release, you want to give, these are American dollar amounts, I'm sorry for that, but this is kind of what I work on here. You promote the page for a certain amount each day, and you boost every post for a little bit, and you can target various audiences depending on what the post is about, if it's about a certain star or actor in your film, or if it's about a certain topic. You can also do ads if your film is opening in 10 cities in the United States. That's what happens. They open in 10 cities. So I would do an ad for each city that talks about the theater that's opening to, and I would target a 50-mile radius around that city. So there's a lot of things you can do. It's very transparent. It's pretty easy and intuitive to figure out, but it's also can be intimidating. You want to make sure that you target the geographical areas that make sense. If you have a global audience, you're going to find you're going to attract fans in countries where your film will probably never show. And then you're just building up an audience with kind of fake fans. And so you want to have 100 real fans versus 1,000 fake ones. So just make sure that you are being smart about where you're targeting your ads to. So that's kind of it. I want you to be confident, and as a filmmaker, you're already a storyteller, so you just want to, as I said, find a new way to tell your story. I have some further resources. Here's where I put the bit.ly.com link. This is a link. Let me see if this will copy and paste. No. If you go to sproutsocial.com, it has a list, and they keep it updated. They keep it updated with the exact sizes for all your social media assets that you need. So like your cover photos, your image size, your images that you share. I'm just typing this. Sorry. That's a good thing to check out, because I use it all the time. Because sometimes your profile picture might change sizes, or the best images. And then this is a sample calendar that I have created that you can copy and paste for yourself. It's that Google Doc calendar that I talked about early on, and it's a way to keep organized. So whenever I start working for a new client, I will create a calendar that that the filmmakers on and the producers on, everyone's on, so that we can use that as a place to connect with each other and keep track of everything that we're doing. So that's what I have. If you guys have any questions, I'm happy to answer them if you put them into the chat. Sorry, I ran a little long here. Thank you, Nadia. If you have any questions, I think that they're going to share this, my presentation with you. Sorry, I have this little, oh no, it went away. I can also share some links and share some other things that I've written over time. And I do have that, the Facebook ads step-by-step instructions that might be helpful. So I hope that the NTube Center can help me send those out to you. Anyone else? All right. Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope this was helpful, and good luck. I wish you the best. Oh, NTube Center's typing. Okay. Thank you so much. And my website, if we go back to the front, my website is this, if you want to visit and ask me any other questions. That's fine, and check out the kinds of things that I do. Okay? Thank you. Have a great night.